Hello, my name is Jodi Ford and I'm the Property Management Director at the Coronis Group. I'm just bringing you an update on the proposed protection laws for COVID-19. I'm very relieved and happy to announce that the work that's been done over the last 4 days has actually managed to effect change, and Minister de Brenni and the Premier have now revised the framework to be more favourable for both landlords and tenants. I would like to thank Antonia Mercarella and the REIQ for providing the framework and the wording for agents and landlords to present a united front to Parliament. I would also like to thank the Coronis team and our landlords, as well as the other agents that have supported this effort. As the Premier said, there has been an overwhelming response to the proposed protection laws. I'm going to outline some of the amended framework for you in this video. So firstly, I'd like to address the unpaid rent. Originally, there was a prohibition to claim back unpaid rent. Under the revised framework, the owners and tenants can come to an agreement with regards to rent, whereby landlords can negotiate a rent deferral or landlords can agree to waive if they wish, which means there is no more permanent rent waiver, but rather deferrals unless the parties agree otherwise. There was also no threshold for financial hardship requirements, so some tenants believed that they were all eligible for rent reductions. However, that was never the intent. The intention was always to protect those in need. So now there is an introduction of a threshold test. The tenant's income must have reduced by more than 25% as a direct result of COVID-19, or where the rents exceed 30% of the tenant's income. The tenant cannot just ask for rent reductions unless there was genuine hardship as a result of COVID-19. Tenants will be required to provide evidence in order to assess their need also. The government's concerns were centred around privacy. However, we've been able to show that as a tenant, they've always been required to provide evidence of their capacity to pay rent in order for us to assess their ability to meet the requirements under the tenancy agreement. So this would be somewhat of an extension of that based on the tenant's request for a variation to their agreement, and therefore it would be needed to substantiate their request. The tenants will now be required to provide the same level of proof as they would have at the start of the tenancy. This will help tenants as well as landlords, as it will allow meaningful discussion and therefore lead to a better chance of a successful negotiation. With regards to the entry requirements, we were concerned that tenants could deny access to the property for anything other than emergency repairs and could decide if they wanted to allow access for anything else. We've been unable to mandate that routine inspections could be conducted, and now we can continue to do that by way of virtual inspections, and the tenants will be required to participate in that. Tenants will also be required to provide access for emergency maintenance and for smoke alarm compliance to ensure safety of the tenant and of the property. Access will also be permitted for the purpose of the sale of a property, and therefore salespeople are allowed to show properties to prospective buyers with very strict requirements by way of private inspection, following all necessary hygiene requirements and sticking strictly to the inspections of no more than 2 people at any point of time. This will also be subject to the tenants who are in isolation, of course. All of those things still need to be taken into consideration. In relation to tenants breaking lease, we were concerned that the additional protection measures which allowed tenants to break the lease with 1 week's notice. Again, the intention was to protect the tenants in extreme financial hardship to leave the tenancy if that was required. To qualify, they will now need to have experienced a reduction of 75% or more of their income, and they also would have to have savings of less than $5,000. This would be in the owner's best interest as well, as the tenants simply could not be able to pay rent based on those conditions anyway. Finally, with regards to the eviction moratorium, It allowed for a mandatory lease extension of 6 months, which in effect could mean for tenancies that expired in up to 6 months would extend for a further 6 months at the reduced rent, which in some cases would mean a 12-month moratorium. We just didn't feel like that was reasonable. So we're now pleased to announce that they've revised the moratorium and that will only be 6 months. And so for leases that will be extended at the reduced rate would only be extended to the 30th of September. Or of course that could be negotiated sooner by mutual agreement with the owner and the tenant. So I hope that helps to eliminate some of the concerns around that. As a real estate agent and as an owner myself, I'm comfortable with these resolutions. I believe this now represents a fair balance of burden for tenants as well as landlords. It's not everything that we were hoping for. However, these are unprecedented times, and with that comes, difficulty across coming to decisions around these things. So we believe at this point of time that it is fair for both landlords and tenants. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we go. This is still to sit through Parliament on the 22nd, and from there we will give you a conclusive overall package of what's happened in that regard. Thank you everyone. I appreciate you listening. Bye for now.